I proper miss football, you know.
Yeah, me too, man.
Like Beckenham goals, he was legendary down there. That was a special team, man. So what, like 5 seasons back to back?
We just kept winning.
Them little plastic trophies meant a lot.
Yeah, they did.
Little victories.
Teamwork.
Well, it's good to have you on. It's a new life. Anyway, we are back on another episode of the Property by Kazy podcast with yourself, Kaz from Property by Kazy. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Mr. Luke from Luke's Properties.
How you doing,
Flows
guys?
nicely. Property by Kazy, Luke's Properties. It's got a certain ring to it.
That's it.
I see you're branded. Was you flexing on them?
Yeah.
You're just letting them know that the branding's ready.
Branding's important, right?
No, definitely. That's that. Like I said, I've take a lot of the best bits from different people. I've had Tej on recently.
Yeah.
I said, when speaking to Tej, I saw his branding, and that's why I started to do what I did.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I took away from just property and business as a whole, that you don't have to be a pioneer and always reinvent the wheel or start something brand new. You just got to take the best bits, add your own little sauce to it, and do you know what I mean, become an expert at whatever it is that you're doing. For sure. So for those that don't know you, give them a little bit of insight in what you do, where you've come from.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Luke. I'm the owner of Luke's Properties, which is a brand. Underneath that brand, we've got a few different businesses, but our first business was a rent-to-rent business. That's how we built ourselves up.
And for those that don't know what rent-to-rent is, because I think this would actually be a lot of people, rent-to-rent, because of the lower barriers to entry, it's one of the most common things that I find I get asked about personally, because I was in it for a while. But let's give people a little 411, your experience in rent-to-rent, do's and don'ts, and some tips for people that want to get into the industry.
So rent-to-rent, typically how I started in it was looking for old tired properties, old guest sort of houses almost, with landlords that are struggling to manage them themselves. Typically there's no mortgages on the property, so they're ready to be rented, but the landlords are trying to rent them themselves and manage them themselves. That's where the problem comes in, because they're not running it as a business, they're running it as an individual.
There's a lot of accidental landlords.
Landlords, and just when people try and run rent-to-rent as themselves, they can come unstuck because there's lots of moving parts. So when you look at it from a business perspective, you need to have the systems in place that allow you to run it smoothly as more of an operation rather than something you can do by yourself, basically.
So if I was starting, like say I said, look, I want to get started in rent-to-rent, where would you direct me first? Like what would you say is the first step to getting started in rent-to-rent?
Well, I'd say you need to get educated first, so you don't just go in blind. I did that, and I got burnt a couple of times by being ignorant almost and just thinking I can go in and look for any HMO and give 2 months rent up front without sort of doing my numbers. I was a bit naive in the beginning, so
there is that eagerness that often time can cost. A lot of the time we try and make the deal work because we want the deal, not because the numbers say it works.
That's exactly what it is, but you can always renegotiate in the future, you know. I mean, you can take the places on from agents in the beginning, and where your numbers might not be great, you could put in like a break clause where you can review it in 12 months, 6 months, and maybe renegotiate. What we found is over time, we kept serving the landlords as well as we could, with the agent sort of sitting in between as the manager. But over time, you develop a relationship with the landlord because you are still the ones finding the tenants for the building. So you end up working directly with the landlord over time anyway, just because they feel like your service is more, I don't know, superior or.
So explain, but the rent-to-rent proposition, because again, that's what I think a lot of people they've heard of the idea.
Yeah, of course.
But what exactly is the rent-to-rent proposition to a landlord? Like, why would they rent a property to you as opposed to a conventional tenant?
Yeah, so quite often these big buildings, they have void periods. So they may have, say for example, a 10-bed HMO. You might have 5 rooms empty, 5 rooms full, if you're managing it yourself. Not as a business, so not using the correct marketing portals, not being proactive with your viewings, you know, doing it around work. So we come in and we say, well, we can fill this place, but we have to spend some money and give it some sort of uplift to then go and achieve a better quality tenant. Quite often the landlords that we deal with, they've got people not paying rent and people in arrears, like the old school style of landlording where you'll get almost DSS tenants that are in there and they're happy to take a lesser rent, but then the upkeep of the property takes detriment to that.
toll,
Yeah, because they're not really keeping up to standards. So we come in, we add a bit of value, we don't spend too much. We keep it down to minimal budget, but we try and give the property some uplift, make it more appealing, make it more efficient for people. So we put like our Wi-Fi in and spend as little as we can, but try and make as much difference as we can, using our own sweat equity as well. And then once we've done that, we can then pay the landlord a guaranteed rent based on the new value of the place, basically. So the rent that we're achieving as a premium from our tenants rather than what they were achieving half empty, half full. We can increase the net rent and the gross rent of the building, basically.
Which is good, because like for rent to rent, a lot of people see it and they see it as a quote unquote side hustle or passive income. Where would you say like the whole, rent to rent, so effectively taking a property from a landlord, you effectively or your company becoming a tenant and you legally subletting it out to those other tenants? Like if I was going to take on 1, 2, 3 rent to rent properties, is it like passive as people describe?
No, it's certainly not passive.
Like how much, like I don't know, like when you were first starting out and you had like how many hours / days a week were you having to put into making the business make sense and run it as a business? So
it's rent to rent's marketed like it's not necessarily that much work, but the truth of the matter is it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work in the beginning, especially because you're trying to bootstrap the business, so you don't want to spend too much. In terms of time, I was driving down to Wales from London once a week on the weekends, looking at different properties, going on viewing, speaking to agents, networking. And then once I acquired the properties and took them on, even my first 3, I was quite consumed in the business. Up until sort of my 5th, 6th sort of rent to rent, I feel that's a sweet spot. Like underneath that, 1 to 5 to 6 is manageable by yourself almost, or as a business with not many employees. But when you go past that stage, you need to bring in the systems and maybe some help, like a housekeeper or a handyman, someone to help you. Because when you first start, you're wearing many hats, so you're doing everything yourself.
I'm surprised I haven't seen you do that very popular reel, because you're quite good at the reels. The one where they introduce themselves as the builder and you have a hammer.
Yeah, well, you've just given me another idea for maybe another reel, so thank you, I appreciate that.
It's all right. We're waiting. There'll be a link below here.
Yeah, put it down there somewhere.
Luke with a hammer.
Yeah, perfect.
It's good
but
stuff.
Yeah, you've got to initially, like any business, right? You have to bootstrap it in the beginning. I think that's sensible. You need to know how to tell people before you delegate. You need to know how to do something yourself. I think there's a sweet spot between firing yourself and getting someone else to do things better than you. But you also need to keep costs down in the beginning because you are a startup. Yeah. So
particularly, I guess there are some people though who go into rent to rent with a significant amount of capital as well.
Yeah, I get those phone calls.
To build cash flow.
Yeah.
And I guess in those instances, you've got the potential to maybe have a little loss leader, so pay to set up systems and pay for stuff that maybe we didn't have the luxury of being able to afford when you're starting out. If you've got a £50,000 budget to get into rent to rent, you could, maybe easily on day one, maybe have a VA or have some type of assistance or have overheads that would make it easier in the long term. But for a lot of people, and I think most commonly, the question is asked more in regards to, I've got £5,000, I've saved X amount, and how do I get into it?
Yeah.
In that instance, it is a case of working at how far can your capital go.
Yeah, this is true.
One thing that I've found in rent to rent, like in my experience of it, is goals are really important in terms of what you want out of rent to rent.
Yeah, sure.
Because unlike, a business like maybe setting up, I don't know, like a shop, for example, like a nail salon or a bakery where you're selling a product. Obviously, once the shop's there, the more you sell, just the more money you make, and you always want to sell more.
Yeah.
But with rent to rent, for every property you take on, unless you're really lucky, like 99% of the time, you've got a significant capital investment up front.
Yes.
Like be that 2,000, 3,000,
Still
10,000 sometimes, but it's your money. So for every time you reinvest that money, that's money that you can't take as an income.
Correct.
And we're all getting into this business to make money, right? So we all want an income. So I feel like it's really important. If we use the example, you got £10,000 and it costs you £5,000 to take on a property. And to use round numbers, each of those properties make you £1,000 a month. You've now got £2,000 worth of income a month.
Yeah.
So technically every 2.5 months, you could take on another property.
You could.
And if you did that by the end of year one, you would have,
a good
circa 6-7 properties at the end of the year.
Correct, yeah.
And you could continue doing that and continue growing your portfolio year on year. But if you always keep on doing that, you've got no money left to pay yourself.
Well, this is it, yeah.
And so that's the balance of, I think, did you have a number in mind, or did you kind of work that out as you built, or were you just focused on building cash flow? Like, did you just really want numbers of properties?
I'll be honest, like, I know you say you are supposed to have a plan, but I kind of just went all systems go, full steam ahead, really. First 2 years was just a bit of a blur, basically, just taking them on.
I guess that is a plan in terms of building so that's why I asked some people at the beginning, and not saying, you know what, I'm not in this in the short term for the money. I'm in it for the long term. I want to build a brand and a business.
Yeah.
And I think from conversations that we had very early on, you were always conscious that, you wanted an element of ownership and you wanted to get into buy-in. Yeah. So obviously those relationships as well with landlords, with agents, I'm pretty sure they went a long way.
They did, and
in terms of what you've developed into with the BRRR and purchasing and flips.
For sure, because I've gone on to serve some of those landlords that are my rent-to-rent clients. They're also investors themselves, so they go on and they buy properties. I've sourced properties for some of those clients of ours. I also manage their portfolios of single lets as well within the business. So the relationships are key, and it's a people's business, isn't it? So once people do business with people they like, know and trust. So once you build that rapport and you serve someone once quite well, chances are they're going to want to work with you again on a different project. So
that's good. And then I think that obviously now Brexit and COVID and lockdown has had a massive impact, like particularly on the rent-to-rent model that's rent to SA or rent to HMO, because sharing with people during a pandemic / holiday lets during a pandemic, the market's going to take a massive hit. How have you found, because I also get some people asking me, is the rent-to-rent model still viable in current market conditions? What would your response be to that?
Well, yes is my response to it. I think you have to pivot. That's why I've got both of those on the board there, because I feel like if you stay versatile, once you've acquired the property, you can always pivot in a different direction depending on what the market is determining. So, for example, when COVID hit, no one was allowed to really travel. We're on an island. People start to look for holidays within England or Wales. So they start to look on booking.com, they start to look for furnished holiday lets. And if you've got a portfolio or you've got a few of those that you could offer on booking.com and Airbnb, then it's going to be full up, especially this year and last year gone.
It's been busy.
It's been busy, it's been busy. I'm still wary, I wouldn't build my entire business model around that. I think it's good to have a mixed bag. So most of our portfolio, I'd say 80% of our rent-to-rent stuff is rent to HMO. So we have contractors in there that are 6 to 12 month, 18 month tenancies, some longer, some we've had for years. So that's like the foundation of the business. And then we've got a couple of our rent to SAs, and then the management is a nice, sturdy, sustainable income. It's more of a commission-based fee rather than you paying your own money out. So I feel like if you have a diverse sort of services within the business, then that gives it a stronger foundation to build on. But has it been affected? Is it viable still? Yes, because there's always tired landlords. There's always big old properties. And I think there's a lot of
tired rent-to-rent providers as well.
There's that too.
Like, I've definitely seen a lot of whole portfolios coming onto the market from people that potentially couldn't deal with the effects of COVID, or people that just decided they wanted to move into something else. So I think with in any market scenario, when there are difficulties and there is adversity, just like if the property market tanked tomorrow, there's going to be an opportunity for people to make a lot of money. Of course. When rentals, there was a lot of voids. That's another. Although for a lot of people, voids were like, okay, I've got rental voids in my rent-to-rent portfolio. Some people saw those voids as an opportunity to acquire additional stock.
Well, this is it.
That's where I kind of love, just going back to grassroots basic SWOT analysis. Okay, what's the threat? Turn that into an opportunity. Basically, what's the weakness? Turn that into a strength.
When there's chaos, there's always an opportunity, and I think, there's always a good time to strike.
Alright, so you're the man with the boards. I've liked the boards. I've said I don't think anybody is able to use a whiteboard as neatly and efficiently and as eloquently as you, especially during a 30, 60 second reel. So this is
what I can do.
What we would call. We're gonna. Where's my phone? I heard it beeping in the background.
Well, these are
and
like two little action plan strategies you could use because.
So what we're gonna call this is Luke explains rent to rent in how long?
I reckon I can do this in about 2 minutes, personally.
2 minutes,
maybe,
yeah.
Maybe less.
All right, we're gonna set the timer.
Yeah, that's fine.
Fair.
Yeah.
Little turn sound on.
Yeah.
2 minutes gone. Let's hear rent to rent from Luke in 2 minutes.
So you've got two different strategies, but we'll start with rent to rent HMO. So this version of rent to rent is based more around professionals. So as I mentioned before, we like to use contractors. We feel that it's a more sustainable income. So they typically sign 6 to 12 month tenancies, maybe longer. So that's again, old tired buildings. You're coming in, you're refurbing old tired buildings. You're serving old tired landlords who don't want to do it themselves anymore. So you want to spend a minimal amount of money on a refurb and give an uplift in value to the building, make the rooms more efficient. And then you want to rent for a premium to, as I said, professionals or contractors. That's one side of rent to rent. That's 80% of our portfolio. Then moving on to rent to service accommodation. Now this is a little bit different. You're still guaranteeing the rent to the landlord, but you're renting the rooms out on more of a weekly or nightly basis. We find it's a sweet spot between the two. You can kind of do both. Like we sometimes have tenants that have stayed with us for 6 to 12 months. They go away, they come back
and say, have you got anything for a week?
So being able to do both is very beneficial for the business, I feel. So down here, you're competing with a hotel. So rent to service accommodation is more, you will probably have to spend a little bit more on a refurb because you want it to look.
But you get an uplift on what you're
getting
on a nightly
more on a nightly basis. Yeah, so they're the two strategies that we use. Both strategies, you need to take something and add some value to it, albeit not too much value because it's not your asset. And then you want to rent it for a premium.
And then what are those bubbles?
So these bubbles, basically, you need to raise deposits. You need to you want to do this for a reason. You want to get into purchasing at some point. So these are two quick ways to raise cash flow, and then you need cash flow to go into your buy-to-let portfolio. So you're going to need to raise capital unless you've been blessed with loads of money. You need to raise capital to get some deposits so you can then go into owning the asset. So there's a reason for it all.
It's good, and we think we're bang on right there.
Yeah.
Bang on the dot.
Not bad.
That's you. That's good. So that's it effectively. So I guess what that answers for a lot of people is a lot of people want to know, like nobody's journey is the same.
Yeah.
But it's good to see or have an idea of how somebody else has got from A to Z.
Yeah, of course.
Your steps might not be identical. They might look completely different. It may take way less, may longer. You may get stuck in some places where they didn't, and you may excel in some places where other people didn't. But for a lot of people, they're looking at things like, okay, look, do you know what? Realistically, maybe within my current role, I can save this amount within a period of time. Within that period of time, I can then take that money and invest that, and this is an example of how you can invest that money into property to potentially allow yourself to be able to maybe buy property or build a good semi-passive income or an income, depending on what you want to do. The other good thing I think, or the other thing to touch on, that I think, although rent to rent can be semi-passive, for those that want to get into, buy to let investments or flips or BRRR, I would say don't rush to potentially leave your full-time job.
No.
Because a lot of people say, okay, I want financial freedom. Financial freedom is something that's thrown around a lot. But what does financial freedom really mean if you're now not mortgageable or now can't leverage what you have?
This is true, yeah.
So I think
that's a very good point.
For a lot of people, if you've got a great job, you've already got a massive asset. Like that job is an asset in the same way somebody else who's got £10,000 is.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So the reason we do these strategies is to raise cash flow. If you've got a good job and you're in a job that you enjoy and the salary is good and you're saving a good amount of money, then that's your cash flow there, really. Those are your fast pounds. You still have to get down to being an investor at some point. But yeah, you certainly don't leave your job. The only people I tell to leave their job is people that are unhappy and they're doing something they're not enjoying. If it's something you enjoy and you're getting a good amount of money and you can save enough to then look to invest and put that money into work, then I would say stick with your job for sure.
Yeah, well, for the time being.
For the time being, you can build this stuff on the side.
I think it also depends what your motivation is. Because if you want to get out of employment just to be your own boss,
Yeah.
like, I'm tired today.
But what is
we
that,
spoke
though?
before.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm my own boss,
Yeah.
but also as my own boss, I'm probably way harder on myself than any
sure.
boss I've had before.
For sure.
So I work way harder, and yeah, it's all for yourself, but you take it all home at the end of the
do.
day. You don't.
You
You know
do.
what I mean? When other people stop at 5 o'clock, you're still working, head still spinning.
Yeah.
So it's a balance.
It is a balance.
There's so many blessings from it.
There
but
are.
I think you just got to make sure that it's what you want at any given time.
Yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure.
Why not? You don't actually speak much, or maybe I've missed it,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't heard much about what you did previously to property, because you know what I mean. Or, I know you, but I dug out some old school pictures from the archives.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna throw the picture up like right here, right here, as my videographer's paying attention because he's on his phone.
Cool.
However, I'm gonna throw that up, and that's a picture of you playing at international level football.
Yeah, many moons ago. Yeah,
a long time, but I think obviously football's a strange. It's a space that's really interesting to me because obviously. As young men, so many people have aspirations to be. If you are, I think that historically, if you ask people, 80% of people want to be a footballer or a rapper.
Yeah,
probably higher than 80%, but that's kind of what we look at. But
of course,
1%, if 0.01% of people actually make it.
Yeah,
and the fact that obviously you went from doing something you love to moving into something else. Like how did you find that as a journey, and what kept you motivated?
It's a good question, actually. So I feel like I've always been ambitious and I've always wanted to achieve great things. For me now, I feel like the destination is the same, but the vehicle's changed slightly. That's all. That's why I love property so much, because
be spitting today, boy. Look at that. Hey, rewrite that one. What was that?
I don't know.
That was hard. Let me hear that one again.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was something about the destination has changed, but the vehicle's the same.
Right.
Yeah? So I'd still want to get to the same place, but I might have to adjust a bit. I might have to pivot. I might have to use a different vehicle to get there. Property's given me that. The business side of it, the investment side of it, something I can get my hands into. I'm quite hands-on. I'm not really like a learner, like a sort of book learner. I do read, but I'm more of a practical, get into it, learn that way, active learner. So I just feel like there are some transferable skills you can take from sport, football, into business as well. Working hard, working towards a goal, that sort of stuff.
Did you quickly, when getting into property, was it the fact that it was a vehicle, or did you quite quickly find, because obviously when you speak about particularly rent to rent, but also the BRR, there's a lot of passion there now. Did you feel that passion straight away, or did the money make you feel the passion?
It wasn't so much the money, it was the growth in myself. So with football, as much as you can make good money from it, you're still always chasing. Feels like you're chasing a carrot almost, and your destiny is still very much in the hands of someone else. With business and property, that destiny is kind of in your own hands. I feel
you're trying to take a better bit of control. And that is actually, I think, that the other side of running your own business or doing something for yourself or contracting or being self-employed is something that often we don't attach enough value to, because it's not just monetary, but the concept of, particularly when this social media kind of very computer, everything's automated, the idea of being in control of your own destiny can be, as much as it's stressful a lot of the time, it's very refreshing. Or for me personally, anyway,
I find the only option.
I find it very refreshing that you can determine how much you want to earn by how hard you work.
Well, this is it, isn't it? And isn't that what we all want? We all have free will.
No, so that's it. So that's why, I've always, although I'm not in rent to rent at the moment, it's something that even I have conversations probably at least, maybe not quarterly, but every
People
sort of half a year.
A lot,
I was like, oh, you did rent to rent, you built up, don't you want to do it again? Isn't it something you want? And it is because don't get me wrong, the cash flow is really good. I think if I had a higher outgoings, I'd have to get into rent to rent just to cover the expenses. At the moment, I don't spend too much, so it's not too bad. But it's something that I've really enjoyed. So I know that you now have rent to rent courses that are 6 weeks, and they're how much?
It's £498, or £83 a week.
Okay. Got a little Kalana deal.
Yeah, well,
have Kalana signed you yet?
Kalana, if you want to, I'm here.
Sign the boy, get him
I want
involved.
it to be affordable for people. So some people pay for a week and then they miss a week, they come back the following week, you know, that's fine, it's not linear. I'm working around other people as well, and they come in from work. Quite a lot of people want to come on the course because they want to get out of their job. So I speak to them 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and it's just half an hour with me every week on Zoom or on the phone, me setting you tasks, holding you accountable.
You know, I've been known occasionally, every now and again, when I wake up on the wrong side of the bed to rant sometimes.
Right, yeah.
on
You're a
the
bit
internet.
of a ranter, yeah. I'll give you that.
about just not a rant, just checking the temperature.
Yeah, as you should.
Because I think education is really important, but education is only important if it's good.
Yeah.
And I do think in property it's a weird space where there's not registered like boards or bodies.
Yeah.
We're moving towards that space,
Yeah.
but there's not at the moment.
Yeah.
So how do you as an educator hold yourself accountable to deliver a good course?
Yeah,
That you mean that your students are going to get value from?
Yeah, well, basically, like in any business that I've started, I over-deliver in the beginning. So I say it's half an hour, I'm speaking to people for 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, until I feel like they've left a phone call with a plan and they know what they're doing. I'm not about to start telling people the wrong advice. I'm aware that I need that good feedback from people as well. And I think overall, sometimes we overthink this stuff. I think just being a good person, like having good ethics and stuff,
integrity is key.
Integrity is key. You're going to pick up the phone, and I'm not going to cut off any of my mentees. I'm going to give them ongoing support, even after the 6-week period. They can still get hold of me. We can do coaching calls for ongoing support. So, yeah, I just feel like being transparent and genuinely trying to help people with that intent will separate you from most.
That's good. Are you gonna? I know I asked you. I can't remember what you said to me though. Can I get a free code to come on your course so I can see if it's good?
Of course you can, yeah.
You see what you said it here now. So if you don't see me on his course,
DM me for details.
No, really. Pause. Listen, the more you subscribe, the more you got those notifications on, the more you comment, the more exclusive content that we can make for you. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Costs you nothing. Back to the video. Is he dead? Bro, let's go, man. So that's quick water break, but we're back again. Listen, I think rent to rent's good. We've spoken in detail about it, but briefly, while we've got you here, I've seen you've now kind of shifted into some other areas to include like deal sourcing.
Yep.
A flip I know you were looking at, and some BRRR stuff as well.
Yep.
How have you found that in comparison?
It's good. You know, it's been a natural progression. I feel like when you always told me to document what I'm doing. So I've been doing that from the very beginning. And I just think as you continue to network people and you show people what you're doing, inevitably they come to you, you know. And as the brand's grown as well, that's made it a lot easier to get investors, people who want, you know, our investor list growing quite quickly now in terms of people we can service and find houses for deal sourcing. It opens up other doors as well to raising private finance if you wanted to go down that option as well. But just being seen with the brand helps the deal sourcing side of things. It's not a get rich quick thing again like the rent to rent. You know, you do have to look at a lot of houses to find good deals. But overall, I feel like our expertise, it's a fair value trade for what we charge to go and spend our time going to find something that's could save someone a lot of time and money.
And maybe potentially a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's good. So I guess there's a lot of action points.
There's a lot going on, yeah.
For different people that are interested and working with you. Like I know we're gonna put, like always, have everybody's links down below.
Yeah.
For the stuff that you do for people to reach out to you.
Yeah.
What can I do? Because there was something I was thinking of doing, but I don't know if it's fair. I'm gonna ask you. I feel like I want to put you on the spot a little bit.
Throw it on.
So, you see, rent to rent. I would say, in my personal opinion, is 20%, you know, compliance and back office.
Yeah.
30%, you know, processes and administration and management as well.
Yeah.
So like oversight, but it's like 50% sales. Like you've got to get those landlords. It's a competitive market now.
That's fair, yeah.
How do you position yourself for a landlord to pick you over the other? Because as a HMO owner myself,
of course.
like I get like a direct to vendor HMO letter from the HMO register.
Yeah.
I might get 5 a week.
Yeah, they're very busy.
So how do you source properties, and how would you advise somebody who's starting out to secure a deal and to kind of set themselves above?
Yeah. So for me, I was very sort of old-fashioned in the beginning with my marketing. I wasn't using that much sort of online marketing. I was doing the direct to landlord letters, but for me, the purpose of the letters is to get a phone call, and then the purpose of the phone call is to get a meeting. And obviously, we couldn't do that as much because of COVID, but pre-COVID, when I was taking places on, I was going and meeting these landlords, and then that's when I felt like I could, as you alluded to there, show my sales skills.
Can you show me your sales skills?
Well, it's just unveiling the pain points in landlording.
I'm asking, can you show me now?
Of course.
We could do it live. Like, pick up your phone.
Yeah, okay.
Be on the phone.
Yeah, so you're the landlord.
I'm gonna be the landlord,
okay.
And I currently have.
Yeah.
You've seen on Open Rent.
Yeah.
You've seen that I have. Well, you're gonna have a proper. All right, I'm gonna have a proper phone as well then.
Yeah.
Branding as well. You ain't got branding on the back of your phone. No. Look at this.
Okay.
Double down.
Bigging up Apple. We've never got enough money.
But yeah, branding wise, all right. So I've got a
10-bed.
No, I've got a 6-bed.
Yeah.
I'm on Open Rent. Like just for argument's sake, you've seen the property for whatever price. You've seen that it's been on for a couple months, and you're calling me to rent the property. What are you saying to me? Let's have the conversation.
Well, I'm saying to you, good afternoon, Mr. Landlord.
How you doing?
Yeah. I see you've got a HMO that's up for rent at the moment.
Oh, I do. Yeah, the one on Stockley Street.
Yeah. How are you finding that? Have you got tenants at the moment?
No, I'm still marketing, still in the process of looking for a tenant.
Yeah, are you finding managing the property okay? Is it taking a lot of your time, or?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Obviously, just I've had some tenants move out, but are you looking to rent the property, or why are you calling me?
Well, yeah, what we would do is we would rent the property on a long-term basis. So we'd fix the rent with a guaranteed rent to you, and we would offer you a fixed price every month. We would do your maintenance for you. We throw in a gas cert as well every year. Obviously the structure of the building would remain the same. You're still obliged to keep the structure of the building safe, as you would be with any estate agent. But what we're hoping to do is give you your time back, basically, because managing HMO can be very difficult and time consuming.
Okay, so at this point of pause, I'm going to assume that this landlord knows about rent to rent. He's familiar with the process. Like the pitch, you've touched on a couple of things that I'm thinking to myself, maybe I do want to spend some more time going on holiday or playing football. But I'm also thinking, as the landlord, my question would be, but I'm not really comfortable. I normally rent to my own tenants. I've had a few companies call me this week offering this service, but why are you different? Why should I pick Luke's Properties?
Well, you alluded to earlier, Mr. Landlord, that you've got some void periods. You haven't got all of your rooms full. So how much are you actually achieving? That's a question that you should know the answer to, really. How much are you achieving? How much is your net rent? What are you paying for your council tax? What are you paying for your energy costs? Are you considering all this stuff? What is the net figure? And then once we've had that conversation, obviously, once we have the net figure, then we can 9 times out of 10 solve that issue by offering probably the same, if not more.
I like that, because I think a lot of the time people don't quantify how much they're making. They just think, I want £2,000, but don't actually realise £2,000 is the gross they want, and that's what it says on their contract. Yeah. But their bottom line might average like 2/3 of that. Yeah. Because of voids, because of maintenance, because of non-payment, because of what you have to value your time at. So I think giving people those actual real life examples of this is how much money you can make with us versus somebody else is a really good way.
Because quite often that type of landlord doesn't understand how much they're actually making. They might think, I've got 3 rooms full and they're all paying me £500, so I'm making £1,500. But that isn't really true, because if they're paying their own council tax, Like if the landlord's paying the council tax, if the landlord's paying the bills, then they're not really making 1,500. If they've got a tenant that hasn't paid for 2-3 weeks, then they're not really making that 1,500, are they? So if you can show that to them and then solve the problem, that's what business is all about, isn't it, really?
That is solving a problem. Active solution that works for everybody.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I think I'm going to leave you on to my final question, which is a question I ask everybody. I like to different. It's the most common question that I get asked via the socials.
Yeah.
So effectively, all I'm doing is copying out and trying to get other people to answer questions for me in this luxurious position that I'm in as the host rather than the question answerer, question asker.
Nice position to be in.
Exactly. So as a 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old that maybe wants to get in property in the future, or maybe wants to get into it now, like what steps would you advise they take to prepare themselves to have the best chance of being successful in the future?
Yeah, okay, cool. That is very young. So I feel like you need to make some mistakes at that age. So a lot of trial and error would serve you well. Getting yourself educated, of course, which most people say, but I mean, it's you're going to pay to learn one way or another. I paid by mistakes that I made by being slightly ignorant and not maybe paying for an educator or a mentor, so to speak. But I mean, I would say get yourself educated, and then as soon as you feel like you've got a basic level of understanding there, then start to implement some of those things you've learned. And then that's when you're going to really learn the real truth of the matter. And that's going to back up your foundation education that you have with real life experience, and I feel that will sort of propel you forward to actually get going. Yeah. So
a mixture of education and experience, the words of wisdom from Luke's Properties. Luke, for those that don't know, where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, cool. So most busy on Instagram. So Instagram.com/Luke's Properties. Same for TikTok. Luke's Properties is the handle. And our website's www.lukesproperties.com. Drop us an email there and someone will respond immediately, hopefully.
Exactly that. So that is a wrap up for another episode of the Property by Kazy podcast today with our guest Luke's Properties. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you've got any questions for myself or Luke, drop us a comment and we'll come back to you. Like this video. Also, turn on those post notifications so you can see the reel of Luke doing the hammer and also the cleaner and all the other stuff that he's going to do in the business. Best pointer in the industry.
Best pointer, for sure.